Hi there, fellow project managers and business owners. Are your projects missing their deadlines? If you're having this issue, please stay tuned because in this video we're going to actually discuss some ways we can actually mitigate those problems and ensure that your projects are landing and finishing on time. I'm your host Darius, and if you like this content, please like the video, share with your team or share with anybody you think might be interested, and also just hit the notification button when you subscribe. And I'll be posting a lot more videos around this topic just to help and ensure that the professionals like yourself get the services that you need. But without further ado, let's hop right into why it is that projects might miss deadlines and how do we fix it. In our last video, we talked about 3 signs that showed that your business or projects might need a project manager. And one of those signs was frequently missed deadlines. So, a normal sign that you might see when your projects or your business goals and objectives are missing their deadlines is that 1, the stakeholders are missing those deadlines, 2, the internal team is missing those deadlines, and 3, no one is articulating exactly what those hard deadlines, milestones, or due dates are actually needed for the project to be completed successfully. Those are some of the signs that we spoke about in our last video, and we're going to kind of mitigate those today. So here are some ways that you can actually address some of these issues. And the first way I have to say is by having a project management tool. There are plenty of project management tools that you can actually use on your business to ensure that your projects are running smoothly and that everybody's aware of those deadlines that we talked about. So for example, there are some like Trello, there's Asana, there's ClickUp, there's Workmajig, there's Microsoft Projects, there's Jira, there's Monday. There is so much software that you can use out there that the choice is really yours as to what works best for your team. You want to just ensure that these tools, 1, align with your team's capability and usage, and 2, that you're able to actually get them that lens to what it is that you do in your business. Like for example, Workmajig is a great tool for marketing and digital marketing projects, as it handles pretty much all of the things that you may need in those instances. But there's other tools like GitHub, which is a great developer software where it works better for those type of projects. So just make sure that the software you're choosing aligns with your business goals. Now, after you've actually decided that it aligns with your business goals, the next thing to do is actually implement the software. You're only going to be as good as the tool you use, but how you use it matters just as much. You wouldn't use a plier to hammer a nail. In this case, your team has to be well equipped to actually using the tool that you provide to them. So if you give them, let's say like, hey, we're going to use Trello, then that team needs to know exactly how to use Trello, some of the pitfalls for using Trello, how they can better themselves using Trello, and how they can track their deadlines and other things within Trello. There are even some tools with AI that can help support some of the workarounds like Notion or ClickUp. When using these tools to track your deadlines, you just want to make sure that your team is comfortable enough and it's easy for them to use. I really like ClickUp because in ClickUp you can track your time, they can put comments on different tasks, you can put information in there, and even some supporting documents that help move that task along. Those are some of the key attributes and things that I will look for in a project management tool to help move teams forward. But this is all on what is comfortable for you, your team, and your organization. Another thing that is very integral in utilizing this tool is now who actually owns this tool. You have to designate someone to actually manage this information and tool. You want them to be able to go in and say, hey team, we're at this level of stage, or hey team, this task is done, we're moving on to this. And oftentimes that's your project manager. If you're working through like a Kanban board or any of those type of realms, it might be a Scrum Master, it might be someone who is moving tasks to the backlog, and then the team kind of moves the tasks along the Kanban board. All of this is just to help you and your team identify exactly how and who owns the project management tool. Some best practices is that the team needs to understand the importance of using this tool. Your goal is to let them know and train them and also get them acquainted, but also some buy-in on actually using the tool on a day-to-day basis. If they're using it daily, chances are you'll be tracking your products a lot better, and therefore that'll ensure that your team is moving in the right direction. Because the goal ultimately is not miss those deadlines by ensuring that everyone knows they exist. Last but not least, once you create those processes, document them. Make sure you're documenting these processes in a place where your team can actually find them. Whether you do a Loom video or Zoom video and you record it, and you just want to document how to use the actual tool that you're implementing. Project management tools is a great way to ensure that your teams are not missing deadlines. Now we have team communication. Now I'm going to include teams as both your internal team and your stakeholder team. And these are two communications that you have to manage effectively. So let's start off with internal team communication. It is important that you articulate the deadlines and milestones for your internal team. Make sure that they are aware that these are deadlines and milestones for your project. You might find some dependencies between tasks that you might need to ensure that ends on the due date that they need to, so that you can move forward into the work that you have to. And this is very important in not missing deadlines. Why? Because if you miss that date and that key date, you may not be able to start something effectively on time, and there may not be room for that to not start on time. For example, you may need just 2 weeks to start putting the site together and building out the components for a website. And if you haven't gotten the designs approved on time, or you haven't finished the designs on time, you're going to push it out as much as that time takes, unless you can find some way to speed up the component development for the website. And a lot of the times you want to give yourself that wiggle room. So getting those dependencies done within a reasonable time that you set, and then articulating that to the team, is very important. Articulate, articulate, articulate. Team communication looks like conversing on email, chatting on instant messengers such as Slack, Teams, and GChat. Make sure your team has that type of capability to talk through instant messages, because these are platforms that allows your team to ask quick questions and move conversations along relatively quickly. So let's say you have a logo that you're designing, and your designer has a couple questions that he may need to ask your strategist, and they can quickly shoot that question to them. That allows the designer to kind of get a better understanding of what logo might actually land for your particular client. So having those type of instant communications is very important for those type of quick things. Chances are, if you send something in an email, not all the time people are going to get it on time or very quickly. Some people don't check their emails until either early morning or late in the afternoon. Some people are inundated with so much emails that they simply can't check all of it, and some emails do fall through the cracks. But what doesn't is an instant messenger. Most folks check that on a regular basis and do keep up with it. So you have emails, you have the instant messenger. Another way that you can communicate is through the project management tool that you have set up. Depending on which project management tool you're using, you can have different conversations within those particular tools. Workmajig does like a conversation board where you can add conversations and add the people who you would like to be a part of it, and then have your conversation there. And then also other tools like ClickUp or Notion, you can actually comment on some tasks or create some conversations in there as well. So ensure that your team is using the tools effectively to ensure that communication is happening. So if you got a client approval or you got client feedback, chances are you can put it in your project management tool. Put it and assign it to a task and say, hey, here's client feedback, here's the revisions we need, and it's attached to the task, which makes it easier for your team to actually see, oh, okay, these are some of the changes that we need to make, or these are the adjustments that we need to make. But having the tool there and communicating within that tool is a great way to communicate and ensure that your team is not missing deadlines. Because you can miss deadlines both on not communicating effectively, but also communicating the wrong information correctly. You want to make sure you communicate the right information correctly to the team and ensure that it goes to the right place. That's whether, again, emails, instant messenger, or on the project management tool. Now, let's move forward into client communications or stakeholder communications. What do you think would be easy for your communications with your stakeholders? This is a question that you have to ask them. They're going to be the ones that are able to tell you exactly how they want to communicate, who to communicate with, and how to best communicate with them. And this is examples like, if you need to have a conversation about implementing an IT software, not all the time the CEO or the president might be the best person to have that conversation with. They may want to be CC'd or informed on that conversation, but you might need to speak to their department or IT person to navigate how to best implement whatever process or tool or software you're trying to implement with them, or you've been hired to implement with them. So you want to just figure out who's to communicate with and how you should communicate with them. You want to make sure that you speak to the client and set up these parameters ahead of time within the beginning of the project to ensure that everyone is on the same wavelength. What that means is your client might think, hey, I know that we're going to meet once a week or bi-weekly to discuss the status of the project, which, by the way, weekly or bi-weekly meetings with clients are perfect because you can use that time to discuss where the project is or answer any questions your team has. But once the client is aware of that, they can then schedule for and around it. Number 2 is letting the client know what it is and what it takes with their engagement to participate on the project. What that means is, hey, we may have some questions during that time. Please be available or be aware that we're going to be reaching out via email or via phone calls just to discuss some of the things that might come up when we do see it during the project time. Just setting that expectation as to what communication will look like, and then ask them what's the best form of communication. Who should you communicate with? You want to make sure that you got the right people and the best time. When it comes to check-ins, make sure you're meeting with your teams on a weekly basis at least. This way they can communicate to you any changes as well, so that you're aware and you can have these conversations with your clients. Again, ensure that your team communication and client communication are on point. And this will help alleviate the possibility or risk to missing deadlines because your team is aware, your clients are aware. Check in with your clients and make sure that they don't have vacation or they don't have time where they're going to be out or not available, and you have a key review time during that time. You want to make sure that everything is communicated up front and they're aware of the schedule, your team is aware of the schedule, and you can make adjustments based on everyone's schedule. Another way that you can alleviate missing deadlines is through better resource management. Now, I know you're wondering, how does resources tie into management of your deadlines? We can go with first vendors. If you're not articulating the deadline to your vendors, chances are they may not know it and therefore may miss it. But let's say you do articulate it to your vendor and say, hey vendor, we have 2 weeks to get this done. And the vendor's like, hey, nope, I can't do that. I'm not the right guy for you. Then you might need to find somebody else who may be able to do it and also still provide you the quality. Why? Because quality is just as important as being able to get it done on time. If they get it done on time but it's poor quality, you may need to do it over and therefore have to go back to spending more time and missing deadlines. There's a wise saying that I heard, do it right, do it light, do it wrong, do it long. And that stands true to our projects. If the vendor does not do it right the first time, chances are it will take a lot longer. So we need to have the right vendor in there, and we need to articulate to the vendor the time frame in which we need this stuff done and what it is that we're looking for. We want to make sure they know all those things so we can get the product we need. Number 2 is your internal team. Like we mentioned before, these are resources. If you're managing them well and have the right person in the right places to do the right work, you'll ensure that the quality gets done. You don't want to mix and match workers or your team with the work that they are not strong at. For example, you have a designer that's way stronger at doing web design than he is or she is at doing concepts of a logo and brand board. Then you want to make sure that your designer that you're using is aligning with the project that you have. Because one, if they're taking a lot longer to get comfortable within a space that they're not as comfortable in, it'll take them a little bit longer to get the work done. But also two, they may not get it done the right way or exactly as it might be for the client and how to please the client. And that is okay, but getting them to be coached or bringing them up to where they need to be for the project would have to be accounted for within the schedule, or it can lead to missing deadlines. Not knowing how long it may take to order something or to get the items you need can also drastically impact your deadlines. So you want to make sure that you understand your vendors and what their timelines are like, if you have to order anything or print anything, what that timeline is like, and then your internal teams, how you're managing and what their strengths and weaknesses are to best produce the quality that you're looking for. This is how you can utilize and leverage resource management in managing your timeline and ensure that you do not miss your deadline. So just to recap, we've gone over how to use project management tools to ensure that your team stays within deadline, how to communicate with your teammates, and your team to ensure that deadlines aren't missed, how to then manage your resources effectively to ensure you're not missing deadlines, and lastly, working with your client and ensuring that you don't miss deadlines. If you tackle these 4 things effectively, this will drastically improve how your projects meet their timelines. As you move forward in your journey as a business owner or as a project manager, just spend some time and see how your projects are being tackled and some of these things that you may have learned today and how you can adjust them as you move forward to improve how you tackle your projects and ensure that your projects end on time. If you found this video helpful, like I said earlier, please 1, like, share with your network and those that you think it'll benefit, and then finally, hit the notification and subscribe. And this way it can help as much people as it can. Because we all have projects, and there's a lot of projects out there that do miss deadlines. You would be surprised to see how much projects actually are finished on time versus those that do not get finished on time. So with that said, let's keep moving forward, let's keep making our projects work, and let's keep turning ideas into reality.